What happens when a documentary cuts too close to the heart of the matter, exposing bones, flesh, blood, sinew, organs, all the stuff that makes people really uncomfortable to see, let alone stomach? That seems to be what's happening with the 9-hour documentary that's been made about Prince and why we'll never get to see it. Welcome to the Radioactive Patient, a music, art, and mental health mashup. I'm Allison Strong, your host, and I'm going to give you the lowdown on this documentary as I know it. Most of the film is told by people who knew Prince well. In one segment, Prince's sister, Tyke, talks about how their father, who was also a musician, who was mad at the world because he'd given up his career to raise these kids, beat their mother mercilessly, beat the kids, and then abandoned them without a trace. And how Prince's second father, when Prince was just trying to play the piano, he'd lash him, or he locked him up in a closet for 6 weeks, only opening the door to push a tray of food in. So, like, Prince experienced generational trauma, not once, but twice. I wonder what impact that had on his mental health. There is one really telling interview with Prince's former tour manager. I can't even believe the guy's still alive, because this story dates back to 1985, the night that the movie Purple Rain premiered. And this tour manager was sitting in the back of a limo with Prince, and he said to his client, "This is going to be the biggest night of your life." And he said it was like a switch just flipped, and Prince's face just froze up in fear. And then that switch flipped again, and Prince looked invincible and resolute and removed as if nothing could hurt him. That was like the strong front that he put on so that he could survive the world and all of the assholes in it. There are interviews with former bandmates like Wendy, Melvoin, and Sheila who talk about how Prince pulled them in close and formed like a family unit with them, only when they got too close to get all controlling, abusive, and then push them away. There's another sequence with his wife who talks about how when they lost their newborn baby to an illness called Pfeiffer syndrome, Prince just, once again, he locked up into that alter ego, and he went and played a show in Miami and then came back to Paisley Palace. And then Oprah came to interview them, and Prince was like, "We don't talk about the baby." And apparently Prince didn't talk about this personal tragedy for like 3 years. And by that time, and it might have been connected to the tragedy, he had converted to Jehovah's Witness, and he started proselytizing to anybody who would listen. For example, he told Wendy that she needed to renounce her homosexuality if she wanted to keep playing with the band. And then there's that contradiction between the clean living dictates of Jehovah's Witness and Prince's decades-long dependence on pain medication. And it was a dependence that it was hard for him to admit to people, let alone admit to himself. And he would quit, to prove like, I can quit, I can handle this, I've got this under control. And then he'd relapse, and ultimately, he died alone in 2016 in his own elevator. And the filmmaker, Ezra Edelman, he supposes in the film that the lyrics from Let's Go Crazy that go, "Are we gonna let the elevator take us down?" that Prince had orchestrated his own death as sort of a theatrical production. The people who own Prince's estate, they don't want us to see this movie, and they're embroiled in a huge legal battle with Netflix where they've made demands. They want them to cut the 9-hour movie down to 6 hours, and they've got things that they want changed so that Prince doesn't look as hard. Now, there's people who have seen this movie, like Questlove from The Roots, and Questlove had an interesting take. Now, Questlove was actually in the movie. And even though he was in the movie, when he saw it in the screening room, he said that it turned his stomach, but that it deconstructed a myth that men, especially black men, are unfeeling, are cold, are hard. And he said that, it was a cultural contribution, and an opportunity, as he said, and I'll just quote him, for us to be seen as human. So anyway, I don't know if we'll ever see this documentary. As fans, I don't think there's much we can do except hope that this documentary eventually gets released. And other than that, we'll just leave it to the lawyers like everything else in life. I'm Allison Strong, and I'll see you on the next video. For now, ciao!